ran an empire at the edge of collapse, plague, war, betrayal from his own generals, and somehow still found the discipline to write to himself almost every night about how to be a better man. Not for an audience, not for history, just 5 ideas written for no one but himself. That still describes exactly what discipline actually requires. Long after the applause stops, long after anyone's watching. Here are 5 of them and what they mean for the discipline you're building right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Book 5 of Meditations, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." He wasn't writing this for a general audience. He was writing it to himself. On a morning he clearly didn't want to get up either. That's the part people miss. The most powerful man in the world still had to talk himself out of the blankets. Discipline was never about being someone who doesn't struggle with the first step. It was about having a sentence ready for the moment you do. Think about what that actually means for an ordinary morning. The version of you that wants to stay comfortable isn't a character flaw. Marcus assumed it would show up daily and prepared for it in advance. He didn't wait to feel motivated. He gave himself something to say instead. A reason rooted in identity, not mood. This is what I'm here to do. That's the first discipline. Not eliminating resistance. Having something ready for the exact moment it arrives. Later, in that same book 5, he wrote something even sharper. But others don't even do that. They're like a vine that produces grapes without looking for anything in return. He's describing 3 kinds of people who do good work. One does it and immediately expects credit. Another does it and quietly keeps score, waiting to be owed something. The third does it the way a vine produces grapes. Not performing generosity, just being what it is and moving on to the next season. Most effort today is built for the first 2 categories. Even when it doesn't look like it. You do the work and some part of you is still watching for the reaction. The views, the comment, the quiet nod of approval from someone whose opinion matters to you. None of that makes the effort fake. It just means it's still tethered to something outside you. The vine doesn't check if anyone noticed the grapes. It just produces again, in season, because that's what it's for. That's a much harder discipline than working hard. It's working well and then simply moving to the next thing, without needing the last thing to be seen first. In Book 8, he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is easy to hear as a productivity slogan. It isn't one. It's a much stricter claim, the discomfort you feel about a delay, a setback, a slow month, none of it comes from the event itself. It comes from the judgment you've attached to the event. That distinction matters because it changes where the discipline actually lives. You can't discipline your way into controlling outcomes. You can only discipline the estimate, the story you tell yourself, about what a slow result means about you. Marcus wasn't saying setbacks don't matter. He was saying the suffering laid on top of them is optional. And it's the one part of the equation actually available to you. That revoking, catching the estimate before it hardens into despair, is a discipline practiced privately, moment to moment, with no one around to see you do it. In Book 10, he gave himself one of the most direct lines in the entire text. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. He wrote this as a rebuke to his own tendency to deliberate instead of act. Notice what he's not saying. He's not saying think less or plan less. He's saying stop treating the identity as a debate to be won intellectually and start treating it as a pattern to be lived today in this instance. This is where most self-improvement quietly fails. People research the discipline. They plan the discipline. They talk about the discipline, sometimes for months, convinced that clarity has to arrive before consistency can begin. Marcus reversed the order. Consistency creates the clarity, not the other way around. You don't think your way into becoming disciplined. You become disciplined by choosing the small, repeatable action. Today and again tomorrow, whether or not the theory feels fully settled. Intensity is a single, dramatic burst. Consistency is what's still there after the drama wears off. And in Book 5, a few lines before the one about getting out of bed, he wrote this instruction to himself. Do what nature requires. Get moving if you have it in you. And don't look around to see if people will know about it. Read carefully, that's a direct challenge to the instinct. To check whether effort is being noticed before deciding it's worth continuing. Marcus governed in full public view. Nearly everything he did was observed, recorded, judged. And still, the instruction he gave himself was to act, as though no one was going to know about it at all. That's the discipline underneath all the others. Doing the work at the exact moment when visibility drops to zero. The early morning rep, the quiet correction nobody will ever hear about. The effort that produces no applause because there's no one in the room. If discipline only shows up when it might be seen, it was never discipline. It was performance wearing discipline's clothes. Put these 5 together and a pattern emerges that has nothing to do with willpower. Discipline, for Marcus Aurelius, was never a personality trait some people are simply born with. It was a daily argument he had to keep having with himself. About getting up, about needing praise, about what he couldn't control. About choosing action over endless deliberation. About doing the work even when no one would ever know he had. He wasn't writing any of this because he'd mastered it. He was writing it because he had to keep reminding himself. Almost every day, for years, which means that discipline was never the absence of resistance. It was the practice of returning to the same 5 ideas, over and over, long after most people would have stopped needing the reminder. Pick just one of these 5 today, whichever one you needed most. Not to master it, just to practice returning to it. The way a Roman emperor returned to the same handful of ideas, alone, in a journal no one was ever supposed to read. That's not a system. It's just the discipline of starting again. Quietly, without an audience, as many times as it takes.